Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Marco. The focal point of this hearing is the bonuses that have been received by executives at Fannie and Freddie. Just to try to, in my own mind at least, clarify, these contracts were approved by FHFA, not by the Department of Treasury. Is that correct?
Both the structure and the amounts were the responsibility and approved by FHFA. FHFA has a contractual responsibility to consult with the Treasury Department on it, to get and consider their feedback, but we're ultimately responsible for the decisions.
So that there's no legal ability for the Department of Treasury to veto your decision. They simply give you their advice as to what you should do.
That's consultation, yes,
right.
Senator.
Typically, and I don't have to tell you, you're quite aware of it, is that in a country where there are so many people desperately looking for a job, the idea of these huge bonuses is just inconceivable to so many people. But typically in a bonus arrangement, there are some performance criteria. Can you outline the performance criteria that would entitle these individuals to bonuses?
Certainly, and these are actually detailed in the public disclosures that, excuse me, Senator, that Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac make in their SEC filings, but I can give you a sample of them. It has included loss mitigation activities such as getting folks for taking foreclosure prevention activities, getting folks into loan modifications. It has included remediating the operational and risk management deficiencies that FHFA in its supervisory practice has identified for the companies so that they become more efficient and less risky, more safe and sound as they go forward. And it has gone to ensuring that they remain active participants in the mortgage market. So that we have stability in the marketplace.
There are many who would look at the performance of Fannie and Freddie and say that, frankly, they haven't done a very good job in those areas that you have pointed out: loss mitigation, getting people into modifications. In fact, I think some troubling numbers. 2010 modifications were significantly far ahead of what we've seen this year. And yet they're still collecting bonuses. And that's one point, which is how do you sort of rationalize what we're seeing and the award? And the second, more specific question, who makes the judgment that they've achieved these objectives? Is it the board of directors, or is it you, or is it a combination of the directors and you?
So it's a combination of, we do work with the boards of directors, so the scorecards are there in advance. The assessment of it is done by management. Those assessments are reviewed by internal audit of the companies. Those assessments are then reviewed both by the boards of directors and by my own staff before the ultimate sort of determination is left with me. With regard to the question about bonuses and these losses, I think it's a very fair observation, Senator, and it's one that I think many citizens have, and I'd like to maybe expand on it for just a moment, if I may. Here's the real challenge of overseeing Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac in conservatorship. These losses that the American taxpayer have been incurring are a result of business decisions that were made at Fannie and Freddie principally in the period from 2005 to the first half of 2008. So those were business decisions that were made at a time past by a leadership team that is no longer with the company. We are now in conservatorship with a new leadership team faced with the prospect of there were a lot of poorly underwritten mortgages that were badly priced, but we can't undo that. The best we can do is to see, given these lousy mortgages, what can we do to minimize the losses on them, and what can we do to strengthen the business going forward. So we know that we're going to see over a period of several years, from 2008, really certainly at least through next year, we're going to see these losses start to wash through the financial statements. But these are losses that are on mortgages that were originated, a while ago. But I need to have a management team come in and be willing to do the hard work of trying to clean this up and build something better for the new mortgage book that we're having. And so getting that sort of separation in mind is one of the things I feel I have to do, and it's a challenge in sort of recruiting people into these positions.
No, I think we understand that, but I think, and my office has been in touch with you on several different initiatives, and let me suggest that your individual activity is absolutely critical, but there are many other factors here. What the state attorney generals do with respect to their activities, but Fannie and Freddie have such a dominant position, particularly with literally the collapse of all the private label folks who were eating their lunch in 2005, and now they're no longer there, leaving Fannie to try to keep the housing markets moving forward. But I think we all have to be much more creative, and I think you have to be much more demanding in terms of those types of performance standards you expect, and also the innovative ways in which your management, or the management of these two companies, carry out their responsibilities, because ultimately the only way we can justify these types of compensation arrangements is discernible progress that is recognized not just here but across the country. And and you have a difficult job, and you know, I think you're obviously putting a great deal of effort in, but we all have to do much better.
I accept that, Senator, and as I tried to say in my written statement, I am committed to looking at these scorecards and how we go about doing that, and taking some further steps in the coming year in the direction that you've outlined.
And if I may, one final point, the overall health of the housing market, it's sort of the stabilizing and then beginning to slowly appreciate is ultimately what will make the balance sheets of Fannie and Freddie look much, 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 much better. Do you agree?
Yes, no, I think that's right, Senator.